This is Julie Grant, and she's a lawyer, and this is Court TV. And you know, when it's Court TV, you're getting the short end of the stick when it comes to intellectual argument. However, they're going to bring in Chrystul Kizer here and talk about her. And of course, they're all in for her. They have heard her story, and they have bought into it hook, line, and sinker. Hello out there. I am trying to get through.
With his powerful brainwaves cradled in the warmth of reasoning, it's time for Johnny Walker Dread to straighten you out on a thing or two. Emanating all the way from exciting Las Vegas, Oklahoma, it's the Johnny Walker Dread Show.
All right, let's listen to this. And keep in mind, I want you to pay close attention to all the feels, the fifis, all of the emotion that you're going to hear from Julie and her guests. Watch the body language. Here we go.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Julie Grant. The Wisconsin Supreme Court is hearing oral arguments today in a case that we here at Court TV have been closely following. It involves Chrystul Kizer. Back in the summer of 2018, the then 17-year-old shot and killed Randall Voller, according to police. Now, he was a man that she accused of molesting her and sex trafficking her to others.
Okay, he accused, right? But take a look. That whole accusation thing is going to get dropped here really soon, and it's going to be treated as fact.
A controversial Wisconsin law could potentially give Kizer immunity. That's because the law at the time gives immunity to sex trafficking victims of crimes that they commit while they're being trafficked.
Well, that's not what it really says, but okay.
Take a look back now at the case. Supporters in Kenosha, Wisconsin are calling on authorities to free Chrystul Kizer.
By the way, their arguments are going to be what? Well, the fact that she carried a gun illegally, that shouldn't have any effect on her guilt. The fact that she drove 45 miles to go kill him, well, that shouldn't be an issue. The fact that she was in his home where she didn't belong, well, that's not an issue. I mean, come on. Yeah, you're going to hear the same arguments that they used against Kyle Rittenhouse, and they're going to blow them off.
An accused killer. They say Kizer is a victim of human trafficking. They want the district attorney to drop murder charges against her. Kizer says she was defending herself when she shot and killed 34-year-old Randall Voller and set his house on fire in June of 2018. Kizer was just 17 years old at the time.
She was just 17 years old at the time. Look how young. I mean, come on, a 17-year-old can't be blamed for something like this. Oh, my God. You got to take that age into consideration, unless you're Kyle Rittenhouse, in which case the age is used against you. What's a 17-year-old doing out on the streets like that? The 17-year-old should have no business doing what he did. But when it comes to Chrystul, being young all of a sudden is a big plus.
Voller was charged with child sex abuse and was out on bail at the time of his death. Kizer's mother says the prosecutor knew about Voller's alleged activities, but did nothing to stop him.
This is one lady I don't have a lot of sympathy for. Your mileage may vary.
He had evidence. The fact that it took for her to do something because she got tired of it. And he trying to sweep the whole problem under the rug, but it's so much more bigger than just her.
But District Attorney Michael Gravely says Kizer killed Voller because she wanted to steal his car and then bragged about the killing on social media.
Where she is essentially bragging on a Facebook Live sort of telecast. She has a gun in her hand. She's waving that gun in her hand, and she is discussing how if somebody makes her mad, she'll shoot them like she shot someone previously, and there are people there trying to quiet her down.
By the way, if you'll notice, when it came to the whole allegation about the fact that she went down there to steal his car, they don't bother showing you why they think that. In other words, what is the evidence that she actually went down there not to defend herself, not to escape sex trafficking, but to actually blow a man's brains out so she could steal his car? They're not showing it, but it's there. She texted her boyfriend before and told him that was why she was doing it. But this Court TV is not going to mention that at all.
Kizer's case has gained national attention with celebrities like Alyssa Milano and Patricia Arquette.
Well, if you ever want more proof that she's guilty, Alyssa Milano and Patricia Arquette are behind her. I'm just kidding. Sort of.
Calling for her release. Kizer's case is reminiscent of the Cyntoia Brown case in Tennessee, which also garnered a lot of attention. Brown was a victim of child sex trafficking.
Or she was? That's a fact? No, that is not a fact. In fact, that is disputed. But they treat it as fact. Keep in mind, Cyntoia Brown was not found innocent. She was found guilty. Her sentence was simply commuted. It was not overturned. She is still guilty of murder in the eyes of the law.
She was tried, convicted, and sentenced to life in prison for murdering a man in 2004. He allegedly bought her for sex when she was 16 years old.
Let's see what Wikipedia says about this. Charles Robinson, a Nashville police detective who served as the lead detective in Allen's murder investigation. Allen is the man that Cyntoia Brown shot, also testified against clemency for Brown. He told the board that he did not believe that there was any evidence to support the claim that Brown had been trafficked since she was 12 and that Allen's killing was unjustified. The parole board was divided, with 2 voting to grant Brown clemency with her having already served 15 years, 2 voting that Brown's sentence should be reduced from 51 to 25 years, and 2 voting to deny clemency. This is hardly a big show of support for Cyntoia Brown. In truth, Cyntoia Brown faced a jury. The jury found her guilty. And she has not been found innocent. And if you look at the voting of the parole board, there's nothing there that makes you think that they think that she's innocent either.
I've been able to help people, which is amazing. Young people, young kids, they listen. And I know it's purely an act of mercy that you even give me a hearing.
Brown was granted clemency by then Tennessee Governor Bill Haslam after serving 15 years. She was released in August of 2019. Kizer faces life in prison if she's convicted of murder and arson.
My only thing is I want my child home, and it's messed up how everything happened.
By the way, you'll not hear from any of Randall Volar's family. His dad, by the way, has a lot to say about the shooting of his son. They're never going to put him on this show. It's going to be all her family.
Wow, this case is really something.
Oh, yeah. Listen to the heart bleed here.
There is quite a faction of supporters for Chrystul Kizer, and we want to be very clear. Legally today, the Wisconsin Supreme Court is not being asked to decide whether or not she is guilty or not guilty of the murder case. The court is only considering whether or not she can argue that this law protects her from any potential criminal liability. So we're going to keep our eyes on that. We don't necessarily expect a decision today, just the arguments are being heard. The decision will come later. Let me bring in my guest now for some discussion. We have with us use of force expert David Wright.
Wait a minute, use of force expert? Why is he involved? This is not a use of force case. It would have been if her original claim that she acted in self-defense would have held up under scrutiny, but it didn't. By the way, that's what a lot of people are missing. When they first interviewed Chrystul, she claimed she didn't even know Randall Volar. She flat lied to the police. Then she made up a phony claim that she shot him in self-defense. However, she had a hard time explaining, if that was the case, why he was found dead sitting in his chair. It's kind of hard to attack somebody while sitting in a chair. So all of a sudden, her testimony changed. That's when the sexual trafficking thing came in, and it was concocted by her lawyers late in the game. After the final hearing, they created this thing. It was not something she told the police about. Yet they're treating it as fact. Now, keep in mind, maybe it is fact. Maybe she really was sexually trafficked. I don't know. We'll find out when the evidence comes out, but that's why we have a trial. And all these people that want her just released, they don't understand. She very well could be a cold-blooded murderer. And she could be extraordinarily dangerous if she's released. We don't know. But that's why we have a trial, to find out the truth, to look at the evidence and figure out, does she need to go to jail or not? But not to these people. They want her released. And by these people, I'm talking about their supporters that we saw earlier in the sketch, not the lawyers we're going to see now.
And trial attorney Imran Ansari. Imran, let me begin with you, please, if I may, on this one. Wow.
Oh, no. Wow. Doggone it, that poor Chrystul.
Tell me, your thoughts on this law, what it can do, and in your view, is this the type of case that this law is essentially designed for a person who's been victimized like Chrystul Kizer has?
For a person who's been victimized like Chrystul Kizer has, again, stated as if it was fact. We'll find out if that's the fact when the trial comes.
Yeah, Julie, I mean, this is a circumstance that, is tragic, that someone is forced to undergo something so horrific in their life and then take action. And of course, is charged with that because under the law that would constitute homicide, and we don't expect the law to be just set aside. But this allows, as you stated, the defendant to put forth this defense. And if she's allowed to do so, there's certain circumstances. This may be the circumstance. There may be other circumstances where people are victimized and they take certain acts of preservation, acts in order to save themselves from being a victim. And we know that there's the self-defense justification, affirmative defense. We know that there's certain other affirmative defenses that a defendant may be able to put forth at trial. And if there is a good faith basis for a defendant to do so, say in a circumstance like this or similar to this where they have been victimized and they have taken certain action, well, again, as you stated, they still need to run the gauntlet of the trial or the law.
Okay, do we have a Cliff's Notes version of this?
And put it to the trier of fact, a jury, to determine guilt or innocence. But should they be afforded the ability to put forth an affirmative defense like this? Well, I say in certain circumstances, if it is a circumstance where someone has taken upon themselves to get them out of a horrible situation, they shouldn't get a free pass. Don't get me wrong, but they should be allowed to put forth that defense before the court, before a jury. And if they have a strong defense on that in that regard, well, they should be afforded all the benefit of the law.
So many words, so little said.
Imran, appreciate it. David Wright, may I just pick your brain a little bit about the dark world that a sex trafficking victim lives in? I mean, these are some of the most sinister, horrific crimes out there. And
I'll tell you one that's even more sinister and horrific. Blowing a man's brains out. That's actually more sinister and more horrific.
And when you think about what someone has to go through.
Oh, you mean like Randall Volar, what he had to go through? I don't know. I don't know what it's like to have to be forced to sit in a chair and then have somebody walk behind me and put a gun to the back of my head and blow my brains out. Couldn't tell you.
It's hard to really understand or even be able to try to put yourselves in the shoes of someone like Chrystul Kizer. Can you share with us a little bit about what you've learned, in law enforcement and just seeing some of those situations and what victims are exposed to?
Again, she's a victim. It's stated as fact.
Just truly tragic.
Truly tragic. He's going to talk about Randall Volar, right? And how he was forced to sit in a chair and then have somebody come in from behind him and blow his brains out. I'm sure he will.
And Imran mentioned this. The physical abuse, I could not imagine it. But also, think of the psychological abuse. And so, this should be a viable defense because her life is really, permanently altered.
Okay, so it's a viable defense because her life was completely altered. So I guess whenever you have somebody do something to you that alters your life permanently, you get to shoot them.
This is a forcible felony.
Forcible felony. So if I commit a forcible felony on someone, they get to shoot me. What the hell kind of legal argument is this? She should be able to use this and get away with killing somebody because, well, what he did to her was like life-altering and a forcible felony. Do you realize how many homicides you would open up with this philosophy? Where does this end?
That's being committed on her, and she's put in a situation where the physical side and the psychological effects are going to be long lasting for the rest of her life.
Let's see here. The physical effects on Randall Volar are going to be long lasting.
And she's permanently damaged.
He's probably damaged too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, it's truly dreadful in these types of crimes. You're right. They don't just end with the act. That damage is permanent, and this is something that survivors of that kind of abuse are fighting day.
Yeah, the damage to Randall Volar is permanent. He's not going to be a survivor, though, is he? All right, look, I'm not defending Randall Volar. The man was a scumbag. But we have to be very careful about this. This license to kill was what he was advocating, right? A forcible felony being committed on you, one that could damage you for life. Well, hell, that should allow you to shoot the person who's inflicting this on you. Keep in mind, there are a lot of instances where people go through some pretty horrendous things because of the actions of others. We don't allow people to shoot them. This opens up the possibility for revenge killings. And so this is bigger than Chrystul. It's been a long-standing law that you cannot take out preemptive strikes against people. Just because you have been abused by somebody doesn't give you the right to kill them. I would like to see a more balanced treatment here by Court TV. Bring somebody in who's going to talk about the other side, who's going to talk about the long-term ramifications of such a law. Oh, and by the way, you might notice that Joseph Rosenbaum was given a lot of love by people who said, now, wait a minute, he was a child rapist, but he was raped himself. And by golly, he had drug problems. He was probably abused pretty badly. He had mental health problems. But when it comes to Randall Volar, nope, just a bad dude. Thank God she shot him to death. It's called bias. Court TV has tons of it. And I know a lot of people are going to be mad because it looks like I'm defending Randall Volar, but I'm telling you, this is a lot bigger than Randall. Like my video, subscribe to my channel.